My mother-in-law tried to ruin my wedding by trying to make my fiancé marry the neighbor on our wedding day. Hey Reddit, I've been a long-time lurker, but I never thought I'd have a story dramatic enough to share. Buckle up because this is a wild ride. My fiancé, Jake, 26M, and I, 25F, met in college. We were both in the same history class and instantly clicked. Our relationship moved quickly but naturally. He was sweet, supportive, and everything I ever wanted in a partner. However, there was one major obstacle: his mother, Diane, 52F. From the beginning, Diane was a nightmare. She had always envisioned Jake marrying the neighbor's daughter, Emily, 26F, who Diane adored. Emily was perfect in Diane's eyes, beautiful, accomplished, and suitable for her son. Diane made it clear that she didn't think I measured up. She would make snide comments about my appearance, saying things like, "I hope your children don't inherit your frizzy hair," or, "Emily has such elegant features, she'll have beautiful grandchildren." Jake was always my rock. He defended me every time his mother insulted me and made it clear to Diane that he had no interest in Emily. Despite his efforts, Diane continued her schemes. She would invite Emily over whenever I wasn't around and even tried to set up accidental meetings between them. Once, she went so far as to arrange a dinner at a fancy restaurant and only informed me after the fact, hoping I wouldn't show up. But Jake, being the amazing man he is, saw through her plans and made sure I was there, ruining her setup. Emily was not innocent in all of this. She genuinely believed she was meant to marry Jake. She was always polite to my face, but I could tell she was entitled and thought she deserved Jake more than I did. She would often tell me how she and Jake had so much history, and how they were perfect together, in a tone that was condescending at best. The only saving grace in this family dynamic was Jake's father, Tom, 55M. Tom was kind, supportive, and treated me like a daughter. He would often call out Diane on her behavior, but she would brush him off, saying he didn't understand because he wasn't a real mother. Fast forward to our engagement. Jake proposed during a romantic trip to the mountains, and it was perfect. I was on cloud 9 until we returned and had to share the news with Diane. Predictably, she was less than thrilled. She forced a smile and congratulated us, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. From that moment, she made it her mission to sabotage our wedding. ###. Update 1. Wedding preparations. Hey Reddit, thanks for all the support and kind messages. Here's an update on the wedding preparations and Diane's antics. Planning the wedding should have been a joyful experience, but Diane turned it into a nightmare. She insisted on being involved in every decision, from the venue to the flowers to the guest list. Whenever I made a choice, she would counter it with her own suggestion, which was always something Emily would have liked. It was exhausting. One of the worst incidents happened when we were picking out my wedding dress. I found the perfect gown, a beautiful lace dress that made me feel like a princess. Diane, who insisted on coming along, took one look at it and said, "It's lovely, but don't you think it's a bit much for someone with your figure?" I was crushed. Jake was furious when he found out and told Diane to back off, but she just played the victim, saying she was only trying to help. Things escalated when it came time to send out the invitations. Diane wanted to invite a slew of people we didn't even know, including Emily and her family. Jake and I stood our ground and refused. In retaliation, Diane threatened to boycott the wedding. We called her bluff and told her she was welcome to stay home if she couldn't support us. She backed down but not without making a dramatic scene, claiming we were tearing the family apart. ###. Update 2. Hey Reddit, it's been a whirlwind, but the wedding finally happened. Here's the dramatic story of the day itself. Despite all the drama leading up to the wedding, I was determined to enjoy our special day. The ceremony was beautiful, held in a charming little chapel surrounded by our closest friends and family. I thought, just for a moment, that Diane might behave herself. I was wrong. The first sign of trouble came when Diane arrived late, just as the ceremony was about to begin. She made a grand entrance, and to my absolute horror, she brought Emily with her, who was wearing a wedding dress. Guests gasped and murmured as they walked in. I was in shock, and Jake was livid. He immediately went to confront his mother, but she acted as if nothing was wrong, saying, "I just thought Emily should be part of this special day. She's like family, after all." Emily, who looked incredibly smug, walked down the aisle as if she were the bride. She clearly believed she deserved to marry Jake. I could see the entitlement in her eyes, and it made my blood boil. The ceremony proceeded, but the tension was palpable. Diane kept making loud, snide comments during the vows, like, "Well, this isn't how I imagined it," and Emily would have looked stunning up there. When it came time for the vows, she actually interrupted and said, "Jake, are you sure about this?" Tom, who had been silently supportive throughout, finally had enough. He stood up, took the microphone from Diane, and firmly but calmly told her to sit down and stop embarrassing herself. Update 3. Hey everyone, thanks for your patience. Here's what happened during the reception. After the chaotic ceremony, I hoped the reception would go smoothly. But, of course, Diane and Emily had other plans. Diane gave a speech that started off seemingly sweet but quickly turned sour. She began reminiscing about Jake's childhood and how she always thought he'd end up with someone like Emily. The tension in the room was palpable. Tom once again had to step in and take the microphone away from her. Emily, still in her wedding dress, tried to steal the spotlight. She approached Jake several times, trying to dance with him and making comments about how they were meant to be together. Jake, to his credit, kept his distance and stayed by my side, but Emily's behavior was causing a scene. As if that wasn't enough, Diane tried to convince the DJ to play a song for Jake and Emily to dance to, claiming it was a joke. The DJ, thankfully, refused. Later, I found her cornering Emily, drunkenly lamenting how I wasn't the right woman for Jake. Emily, rather than diffusing the situation, played along and added fuel to the fire. By the end of the night, Diane and Emily were both a mess. Diane had too much to drink and needed to be escorted out by Tom. Emily, in her disheveled wedding dress, finally realized she was not going to get what she wanted and left in a huff. Despite all this, Jake and I managed to have a wonderful time with our friends and family who were genuinely happy for us. ###. Update 4. Hey everyone, thanks for all your support. Here's what happened after the wedding. Jake and I went on our honeymoon, hoping to leave all the drama behind. It was a wonderful, relaxing trip, but we knew we'd have to deal with Diane and Emily when we returned. Sure enough, as soon as we got back, they were at it again. Diane called Jake every day, demanding to know why he had betrayed her by marrying me and not Emily. She even showed up at our new home unannounced, causing a scene in front of our neighbors. It was embarrassing and stressful. Jake finally had to threaten her with a restraining order if she didn't stop harassing us. It was a tough decision, but we needed peace. In the meantime, Tom reached out to us privately, apologizing for Diane's behavior. He was supportive and continued to defend us, which helped ease some of the tension. He even started spending more time with us without Diane, which seemed to drive her even crazier. Emily, on the other hand, tried to keep inserting herself into our lives. She would show up at places she knew we'd be, acting as if she were still part of Jake's life. It was exhausting, and we had to take steps to avoid her. Update 5. Hey guys, things have taken a turn for the worse. Here's the latest update. Despite our efforts to set boundaries, Diane's behavior only escalated. She started spreading rumors about me to anyone who would listen, saying I was trying to alienate Jake from his family and that I was a gold digger. She even went so far as to call my workplace and make false accusations against me, which thankfully, my boss didn't take seriously. One particularly bad day, Diane showed up at my office. She caused a scene in the lobby, screaming about how I had ruined her son's life. Security had to escort her out, and I was mortified. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Jake and I decided to cut all contact with Diane for a while. It was a heartbreaking decision, especially for Jake, but we needed peace. Tom continued to support us and even suggested counseling for Diane, but she refused, claiming there was nothing wrong with her. Emily, meanwhile, continued her delusions. She would send Jake long messages about how they were meant to be together and how I was just a phase he'd eventually get over. Jake blocked her on all social media and changed his number, but she found ways to contact him through mutual friends. ###. Update 6. Hey guys, it's been a while, and I wanted to give you an update. After months of no contact, Diane finally reached out. She apologized for her behavior and asked if we could talk. We were skeptical but agreed to meet her in a public place. To our surprise, she seemed genuinely remorseful. She admitted that she had been wrong and that she was struggling with the idea of letting go of Jake. We started seeing Diane again, but with strict boundaries. She attended therapy sessions, and slowly, things began to improve. She still had her moments, but she was making an effort, and that meant a lot. Tom, who had been our rock, was thrilled. He supported Diane's journey and continued to be a positive influence in our lives. Emily, on the other hand, did not take the hint. She continued to try and contact Jake, and it became clear that she was not going to give up easily. We had to get a restraining order against her to finally get some peace. Final update. Hi everyone, this will be my final update. Here's how things are now. It's been a long and rocky road, but we've made it. Diane is not perfect, but she's trying, and that's all we can ask for. Jake and I are stronger than ever. We've learned to set boundaries and stand up for ourselves, and our relationship has grown because of it. Tom remains a constant source of support. He and Diane are working on their marriage, and while it's not easy, they're making progress. We've started to think about starting our own family, and for the first time, I feel hopeful about the future. Emily has finally backed off after the restraining order was enforced. She moved away, and we haven't heard from her since. It's a relief to finally have that chapter of our lives closed.